everybody. It is time for Astralis versus Vitality. And we're going to set you up for that accordingly. And before we get into the match intro, we did ask you to send in your tweets using the hashtag #PingTheLobby with support questions for Guldborg and Treatz. And I thought this would be an excellent time to pull one up from @GildedFool. How do I set up the first dragon of the game in solo queue as a support without just killing the enemy bot lane? That's a great question.
That's the neat part. You don't. So
yeah, I feel like you can just skip dragons in solo queue, to be honest. I feel like people get more baited by going for dragons in solo queue. I mean, when I play solo queue as a support, personally, I feel like kills are more valuable and lower risk. So when you go towards the dragon, I feel like it's mostly just ends bad for your team, to be honest.
I think it's a thing where like you're so used to watching competitive and you're like, oh my god, look at the way that they do Drake here. They have a good setup. They're taking the Drake. They have priors. You can't do the same in solo queue. In solo queue, you find the kills, that can lead to a Drake. In competitive, you go for the Drake, that can lead to kills. It's a bit of a vice versa. It's not the same game.
I feel you, so it needs to be right. But this person is asking, he wants to do it no matter what. So there isn't a possibility for kill pressure. In fact, there's no pressure, but you still want to tunnel on it. And you're on blue side.
And then you
I think you just write in chat, I'm doing dragon no matter what, come support me, or I might...
Well, they have a little menu for that now, so...
Yeah, that's true. Just all in on the dragon 10 times in a row. Yeah, maybe that would work.
But you will also get a lot of minus LP, so that depends. Do you want the Drake or do you want the win? So it's really...
Okay, I think that's a good summary. Do you want the Drake or do you want the win, Gilded Fool? Think very long and hard about it. Now, we do have a quick update for everyone. We will have a small delay before our next game between Astralis and Team Vitality due to some client issues, but League officials are now working on getting the players into the lobby and checking their settings, so it should actually be on the way to being resolved. Hope I didn't jinx it. Otherwise, it's my fault. I'll gladly take the blame.
It's all on us.
Though, it's all on us. Luckily, though, we have prepared a fair bit for this match intro because it's quite an interesting one to look at. Astralis versus Vitality. Both lost yesterday. I want to start with Astralis. They were up versus BDS, and I was watching that game from home, and when I saw that they had the kill advantage, I think like 5 kill advantage, but the gold just didn't go up, I was worried, Treatz.
It looked really weird because Astralis was kind of in the driver's seat the entire game, but they never really got to the point where it felt like they won the game, right? And then I think around the objectives, they really struggled. And then obviously around the Baron here, they kind of messed up and lost the game.
Yeah, I like the game plan was set for what they needed to do. They got their early Drakes, they got the Sol, but the way that they're playing out this Baron fight in particular, you can even see there, they try to go for a pick initially, then 113 has to bail out, then he realizes, wait, they can take Baron, we need to go out. In this situation, they've already lost a member, so they decide to 4 versus 5 it instead, and that doesn't make matters easier for them, so it felt like they put themselves in a good position to actually win the game, and then they started giving it over to BDS.
Yeah, and I feel like just on top of that as well, I think late game, they didn't really seem to be on the same page.
At all.
Like, even the Baron was a prime example of this, but just after as well, like, they still had the Sol, right?
Yeah.
They had ways to win the game, but it felt like they kind of lost some motivation in the game, and they were a bit down on themselves after, so hoping that they have some better mid and late game strats prepared for today.
Yeah, late game objective setup wasn't all to write home about. I wanted to pull up some kill maps, starting with Astralis, so we can take a look at how they kind of approach the map versus Vitality, or versus the way Vitality does it, rather.
Yeah, I feel like Astralis kill map is very interesting because one thing is you can see on red side that's a lot more solo lane focused, or not solo lane, but side lane focused instead. But what is really curious about Astralis as well is that they have that mid lane pressure as well in the early game, and a lot of that has to go into leader.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because leaders played Aurelion blue side, but I feel like a lot of counter picks on mid would lead to more kills on mid, right? But that hasn't really been the case. So I think it's curious today to see what leader picks, because on Annie he was not as effective as he was on champs like Aurelia, so maybe they change up their draft strategy as well.
I believe they are blue today.
Right.
I believe. Am I telling a lie, production? I think they're blue. Yes, they're blue.
Perfect.
And I wanted to take that into the context with this one, as we see that on blue side, there's a lot going on mid lane, even though it's not a counter pick scenario. Usually, well, it isn't. And on Vitality, when we look at the kill map, and they will be on the red side on this one, it's a kind of a different story, especially for the mid lane.
Yeah, this is where it gets so interesting as well, because like, look at that. It's like someone took a vacuum cleaner and all that confetti we put over the map was completely washed away. And you say Perkz, I mean, he's become a very selfless mid laner as well, really giving a lot of attention to the side lane. And I think that's the mismatch going into today's matchup as well that you need to pay attention to. For the side of Astralis, you have potential with the wacky picks that Leader kind of gets around to find a good matchup for Astralis, but for Vitality specifically, it's all about the side lanes.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if Astralis go mid lane, right, and try to shut down Perkz from roaming, but there won't be anyone there. So will they just fight 3v1 against Perkz and try to stop him from getting prio? I think that's also going to be interesting to see. It's going to be a mid lane war for sure into the side lanes. It will just be like regarding the picks they play and how much they want to invest their resources into the mid lane, but it's going to be definitely a lot of action from Astralis around mid lane.
Yeah, high potential for Bloodbath early. We cooked up a graphic with the early aggression specifically. You see it for Vitality. You just see it, right? Photon is demanding a lot and is getting a lot of kills in that top lane, of course, the bot lane as well. And Perkz is just trying to control that mid lane by not spending any time in it, likely. So let's take a look at the early aggression. Where do we think it's going to be then, if you know that these are the priorities of the two teams?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really bloody game. We can see that from the stats as well. Both teams like to play really aggressive and look for especially draft advantages, which also makes this easier. So I think from the side of Vitality, I feel like they're a bit more flexible on where they can play. I think Photon has been exceptional so far, and obviously the bot lane has been a super power point for them as well. So, and Astralis now with blue side, maybe Leader will look for the Irelia again. So it will be a lot of bloodshed this game.
Yeah, I think there is room for it to really be all over the map, depending on what kind of game plan they're coming in with it, because we've seen Kled go for Kled a bit up in the top side, where it's just like, all right, I said Kled initially, but Finn, of course, going into the top side, trying to be aggressive on that solo lane. We've also seen them play through Leader with Astralis. We also know Kobbe and JeongHoon, what they can actually do down towards that bot side of the map. But both teams here has the potential to be a triple threat team. So it's really just going to come down to where they put their resources. Speaking
of Kled, I'm glad you brought it up. Yesterday, we did see G2 beat Vitality. It was the first time that Vitality suffered a loss. Was the Kled the kryptonite? What was the kryptonite in taking down Vitality? What's the golden sauce?
I mean, I would not say it was Kled. I feel like it was mostly the G2, how do you say it? I think G2, when they were grouped up, were very solid, and Vitality has kind of shown that they were the strongest team grouped up, but G2 kind of took the title over there. So I think, and as well as just the composition that G2 played, I think that there are a lot of disengage tools against Vitality, because Vitality likes to go for aggressive picks, so if you have something like the Xayah, if you have something like the Soraka to kind of win you the long fight, I think that's also very important.
But I also think that was a game between 10 very gifted players.
Yeah.
Even going off in the early game, in the isolated matchups, mid lane and bot lane, G2 just straight up won them. Caps found a solo kill in the mid lane, just flashing in on Perkz. Down towards the bot side of the map, it was Mickey and Hansama who found the 2v2 kill. So yes, they set themselves up for the great mid to late game by finding picks like that. And he said, is there any standout players? Well, I think specifically for me in yesterday's game, it would have to be Caps on the Cassiopeia.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, he was really effective, and yeah, that also plays into the disengage style, right? I think in general, when you're playing against a team that you know will play really aggressive, having the tools to kind of disengage and kind of absorb, they're also doing it.
Olympics over there. It can be really cold, Treatz.
Yeah, you're complaining a lot about the heat today, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, as a player, if the stage is 1 degree colder or warmer, and then yeah, your entire game plan is thrown off, basically. Yeah.
You've heard of pro players with rulers. Treatz usually bring a thermometer whenever he wins the stage, so yeah.
To see that everything is correct. As you can see, they're not on stage right now. We did have a small delay into getting or client issues. Rather, it should be another 4 minutes is what I was told. And you know what? I think I jinxed it, because right before this game, we were watching the second game, and I said in the green room, I said, oh, isn't it nice how smooth everything feels when there's no delays?
Yeah.
So I'm going to take that one on the chin. It was my bad. So what do you guys want to do? And also, we took a lot of suggestions we asked the crowd, and I read Reddit also, as I always do, unfortunately, last week. And I saw someone coming up with, I think it was like a bowl of ideas, and we're working on it. We're getting like a list of everything that we have prepared so we can just grab it in case we have a longer delay. But this shouldn't be a longer delay. So what do you want to do?
You're the guest.
I let the guest
talk first. What do you want to talk about?
I love hard-hitting analysis, right? I love bot lane.
Okay, so why haven't we heard that yet? No, just kidding. Go ahead. Yes, bot lane. Deep dive.
I mean, I feel like it's a really interesting matchup, because Vitality looked super solid before the game against G2 yesterday on bot lane. Obviously, G2 bot lane is no slouches, and they kind of show that against Vitality as well. And Kobbe and JeongHoon have been performing super well. So I think for today, on the bot side especially, is where I'm gonna keep my eyes at. I want to see, especially coming from draft as well, I want to see Kobbe and JeongHoon kind of set up for the same success as Hansam and Mickey were yesterday, and kind of lead that and kind of push the game forward from bot side, because I think that's a very good way you can beat Vitality.
Yeah, because I actually think they are one of the few bot lanes that could actually replicate that. A lot of the kills that Kobbe and JeongHoon get down on the bot lane is actually just 2v2 isolated and not so much a jungle influence. So a lot of it actually just comes from the first 3 waves when they're coming in, when they're looking for the place. They're very hungry for the first bots, and that's why the games get so bloody as well. If I would have to take it elsewhere, I feel like it's going to be the 2v2 on the top side of the map with the junglers and the top laners. We've seen Photon really just be the duo that gets up there, especially in the early game. We saw it on Gragas and we saw it on the Camille with the setup that they have. And I think that's something that Finn's going to be very wary about if they're sending resources down towards the bot side, because I think he's going to be under a lot of attention.
What did Yike show us yesterday in terms of shutting down Bo?
I think
It's a good question. I mean, I feel like he was kind of just...
He was super fed after a while.
Yeah, he was super fed after a while. I think he was playing really well at just playing his own game, because I think a lot of junglers get sucked into playing both style of aggression. I think Yike had a really just clear game plan himself.
Sorry, I wonder if this is Finn. It's like family or friends or something, but it's awesome.
Could be, yeah. That's cute.
Go ahead, sorry.
We should steal those signs and have them ourselves.
You think so?
You're not Finn.
No, but like...
You wish.
Yeah,
we all
I
wish.
I wish I had that Finn sign.
We all wish. But the game is ready. Yay! Let's head over to Dagda and Quickshot.
Thank you so much, Sjokz and the Nordic duo. Welcome back to the cast desk for Astralis taking on Team Vitality. Both of these teams losing their respective games yesterday in slightly different fashions, of course. Vitality playing up against G2 in a very competitive game for at least the first 20-25 minutes, and then, unfortunately, G2 just started to find the edge, find the picks they had that advantage, they ran away with the game. Astralis, on the other hand, they had their very limited damage comp. Leader on the Annie, as well as that Zeri in the bottom lane for Kobbe. And despite it looking good early, I just think like a player like Leader or a champion like Annie, you just don't have the ability to impact quite as much as on some of those other bigger playmakers.
I agree. And I also think it's teams, again, getting used to what we expect from Astralis, right? This go-for-it composition. I imagine we're going to see things like the Cassiopeia being very relevant once more, like we saw yesterday coming into this, especially for Perkz. So I think you kind of got options here. Like if you go for a Cassiopeia, Xayah, something along those lines for upset, you're going to be in a totally fine spot to absorb a lot of this damage and a lot of this go button that Astralis tend to go for. So I'm curious to see how they mix up the draft, because a lot of the big criticisms we've kind of seen leverage towards Astralis draft is you are playing heavy dive compositions. They do well against poke comps, but we're still seeing things like Varus's and Jace's banned in a lot of their games.
Please remind me, my brain is a bit frazzled, but I think we cast them against Mad Lions on day 1, or myself and Kadril did.
Yourself and Kadril, yeah.
And it was the Gragas Desire that undid them because they kept going forward. So on blue side, I want to see what their answers are. Does Gragas and Xayah first of all get banned? Is it allowed through? Is it priority picked in some ways? Because I think Gragas can still be a champion that can work for Astralis. On the other side, what is Vitality's answer? Because when I do think of all the teams, Mad Lions as a team, I would have expected them to absorb, to catch, to try to respond. We literally just saw that, in fact. When I think of Vitality, I think they were going to stare them in the eye and say, you want to fight? Let's go, bruh. And I think this could be another game where you might meet aggression with aggression.
I am curious, because I think there's going to be things like the Caitlyn ban toward upset and that kind of stuff that we kind of regularly see.
Draven?
And trying to... Draven probably as well. And more than likely... See, this is where it gets tough then, because then potentially a Varus ban as well is what we've traditionally seen from Astralis. So that's just 3 bans towards upset, while the rest of the map gets to run wild. And Photon has looked absolutely fantastic in that top lane. And the Camille yesterday was brilliant, even though he couldn't get the win. Jax has looked amazing. You're also then looking at Bo, who I think had a very rough game in the Gragas. Don't really want to see that once more. So I think there's a huge amount here that Vitality want to figure out.
There's too many questions, no answers. We'll find out in just a moment. Astralis versus Vitality. So welcome to Picks and Bans. Team Vitality coming to this game with a 4-1 record. Astralis 2-3. The fact that Heretics just picked up that win themselves, as well as the fact that Excel right behind them, this is a very important game for Astralis. We're going to start seeing some of those first few questions answered. Caitlyn, Lucian, Sejuani removed from the pool. So that's Xayah, the Gragas, the Draven, all still champions that are open and available. We've seen what Upset can do on some of those. And I just don't know what direction you go. Annie, also a thing. Instead, going to be removing the Elise. So one of those dive champions, one of those things that can combo with leaders' sort of penchant or preference towards AD mid laners.
And there's going to be Lulu taken off the board, so trying to combat kind of the Zeri there. But you still have, as you say, the Annie that can pair very well with the Felios, with the Zeri as well. So maybe that's what Astralis are angling for in first rotation if Vitality don't ban away. But you still have Gragas, you still have the Xayah.
Yeah.
A lot of these big picks still up and available.
Well, what will be the priority pick here for Astralis and the answer from Vitality? They, in fact, will ban the Xayah themselves, and it will be a first pick near insta-lock Varus here for Kobbe. This will be the third time that he has played the champion this year. He has got an unkillable, has got unkilled on that champion across those two previous games.
And I feel like you're going to get the Vi here and also the Annie probably taken for Vitality. Vi really good at trying to go for these engage tools because as we were talking about Varus, definitely a poke champion, so trying to have these dive tools is very, very strong for them. And then the Annie pairs so well with things like the follow-up obviously for the Vi, but you can play her mid, you can play her in the support, unlock things like the Aphelios because the speed up you get on Aphelios is so damn good for him getting into these fights.
The thing I also think about with Vi in particular, against a player like Leader, almost all of the champions that Leader is likely to play, you anticipate that he is going to lean towards, Vi will be a pretty good option into many of them. So that little flick around on the support pool, Kaiser's going to be locking in the Rakan, so we've got at least one of those initiation tools.
Yeah, I think also just the Vi in general, great pick for Bo as well. It's been one of the champions that he's found the most success on. It's his most played 100% win rate at the moment at 5 games. So adding a 6th here, let's see if he can keep that streak alive. Rakan going to be paired well, very well with them as well to try and continue going for these dives. And 113 going to bring out the Viego, which definitely a pick that 113 is well versed on, but I think the biggest thing now is you're kind of angling into, well, I want to find resets, I want to be able to follow up on things, but if we're getting dove immediately, not exactly the best of champions in that scenario.
Alternatively, if you're going forward with the Annie, with the Chain of Corruption, maybe be able to set those resets up for yourself. I took a quick look there at Kaiser's Rakan stats. It is his 3rd most played champion of all time with 27 games across his 60% win ratio. That will be comboed up with that Kai'Sa. So a little bit of those initiation tools, some of the repositioning ability as well with their killer instinct.
It's very funny though, because this is actually a composition I would expect Astralis to play.
Yes.
This is, hey, we're going to go in, we're all going to dive together, and it's going to be hopefully a great time, but instead going to be piloting us on the opposite side of things. Now banning away the Silas, going to try and probably take away something like a Cassiopeia or a Gragas as well, just because you're diving so quickly onto the back line. Anything that can try and blow open that opportunity is going to cause you issues.
Okay, so there's Annie now. We saw Leader playing it in the mid lane. It can be flexed to support. Do you have a preference for that? Do you think it'll depend on what these next bans and picks will actually be here from Vitality?
I think it should go into the bot side. You've got a decent amount of range on Annie into the Kai'Sa where you can get a lot of poke off. You are going to struggle a little bit if Rakan continuously tries to engage in on top of you, but you can turn around a huge amount of damage, burst damage very quickly and try and kill off this Rakan quite easily. So I think that's probably your best bet. And then you can always opt in towards something a little bit different for a Leader. The only problem for Leader is you're not going to have a huge amount of options. I was about to say, because they're probably going to keep counterpick for you, but instead they're going to just take the Lissandra, try and nullify any matchup the Leader tries to take into the mid lane and keep that counterpick for Photon.
I really like the versatility of Lissandra into the champions that have been put forward here for Astralis. You combo that point and click CC with the Vi. You've got aggressive tools. You also have the option to self-cast that, use that defensively in case you're the target of the Tibbers, the Chain of Corruption. So tools there for Perkz to play around with. Finn will get his hands onto the Sion in the top lane, and as you're anticipating, Dagda, Annie down bottom, and the Aurelion Sol for Leader in the middle lane, going up against Perkz.
Very different look, though, for Leader. This is going to be a champion that you want to slow scale with, try and play around team fights, obviously, very smartly, and try and find these executes and big ultimates, but I don't know if you're really going to get that time to scale into the game. It's something that we actually saw Perkz struggle with yesterday, where you give a huge amount of time and space in your mid lane because you're trying to buy time for this Aurelion Sol. So Perkz on this Lissandra can do a lot of damage in these side lanes, and I think it's going to be a case of Bo and Perkz, this roaming death squad, trying to enter every single side lane.
And you've now got also more side lane pressure with that Gwen being locked in for Photon. I will say this is the first Viego that we've seen of Spring. It was played 6 times during the course of the winter season with Resort 113 and Yike playing that particular champion. When we zoom out and look at how these two teams are going to play. You talked a little bit about Bo and Perkz. What are you seeing here from Astralis? How do you want to see them play and use this Viego, the first one we've seen this split?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a case of trying to find opportunities. So it's a bit tough because for Viego, you oftentimes want to try and find opportunities to invade, try and find ways to steal away camps, find these little skirmishes where you're very strong in the early stages and then become this big late game threat with a ton of kills under your belt. But when you have the Aurelion Sol in the mid lane, that becomes very difficult. If you're going for the poke Varus in the bot lane, you should have that push in the bottom side of the map to make things easier, but I'm not certain in this situation if you want to go for the poke Varus, because I think you still want to have a little bit of DPS and late game scaling when you're looking at this big team fight composition that you have.
Yeah, especially if you do get to, have some time bought for you from the space from Sol, the Tibbers, the fact that Sion can be that beefy frontline. I will say that when you do look at Vitality's comp, relatively squishy in the grand scheme of things, not the most tanky. We're going to find out what happens as we hit the rift for Astralis versus Vitality. So let's turn our attention to the early game as Astralis are grouped up as 5 already, stepping all the way forward into the bush. Got that small ward. It doesn't look like Vitality are stepping forward just yet. But I think because it is going to be the first Viego here of the Spring Split, my eyes are going to be on 113, on his performance, and whether or not he's going to be able to disrupt some of those potential plans that Bo and Perkz want to put together.
Sorry, I got distracted because I'm really surprised that Kobbe isn't running cleanse here. You've so much engaged that's going to be going your direction. Maybe he's just thinking, look, I'm doomed for anyway, but I think having something that can try and, get you out of the charm for Kaiser so you can flash away, even just to follow up from Perkz, would have been super valuable. He is going for that on-hit build, so he's going to be pretty close to the fights. So having that, our lack of summoner spell may come back to bite him in the later stages, but having the ward down on the bot side, they want to make sure you can already set up for Kobbe and JeongHoon to play aggressive in this matchup, get the push, and not have Kaiser, as you can kind of see here, just sit in the bush and catch them out.
I mean, that's going to be something to track, right? Whether or not any of that CC can be avoided, whether the range can be set up. I mean, it is a little bit on brand for Astralis as a team and as players. They want to be going forward. They don't want to be using that cleanse defensively because they're hoping to start the fights and they're hoping to be in control of the flow of the game. And maybe Leader, with that astral flight and the mobility from that Sol, may look to try and move around the map. For now, though, bottom half of the map is where 113 started. Red buff cleared, and pretty quick movement already here from Bo, making his way from red to blue. So I want to keep my eyes on those two respective junglers. Bo, one of the players that has conceded either farming or full clear. He's happy to get creative with his plays.
And he's already getting kind of creative with his pathing. I think he knew that ward was down, skips Raptor, so it doesn't show him the ward, and immediately moves into this bottom side. So you actually don't know at the moment where Bo is if you're Astralis, which is why 113, already moving down to this bot side, just wants to make sure Kobbe and JeongHoon can abuse this lane and get this crash before the Vi actually shows up.
All right, so this wave being pushed in. Only the single CS picked up by Upset. As to be expected, that ward was spotting out there 113. And try to pick the fight, in and around the Grump, who picks up the secure. One fight auto picked up there by 113. Bo also forced to flash over the wall, so advantage to Viego. While that's going on, Glacial path forward into the Ring of Frost, being burned alive from that Breath of Light. Another one to go. Perkz almost soloed out there. Manages to escape just with below 50 HP.
Perkz just not respecting the amount of damage this Sol can turn out, and means he has to try and reset. Will be able to TP back into lane, but now you got control over mid. You've lost already 2 camps on bot side thanks to this invade from 113. So at the moment, Astralis playing really well in these early lane stages.
Very, very nicely done. Plus 600 gold already. From the middle and the bottom lane, advantages accrued. The only lane going a little bit against him, again, to be expected. Gwen in the early levels pushing this wave forward. Finn should be able to use that Soul Furnace to clean up most of that wave and claw back the deficit. But we do need to keep track on 113. The pressure is on to not allow Bo to create those combo plays with the likes of Gwen or Lissandra. And so far, he's done well. So TP's back to the middle lane there. It is the unsealed spellbook for Perkz. And also in the bottom lane, still pressure as Kobbe and JeongHoon are stepping forwards.
The big thing that we've seen from Vitality, though, is in their wins, Bo has looked absolutely fantastic because he kind of gets to do whatever he wants to do. But in their losses, Bo hasn't had anywhere near the same impact. He's nearly the double amount the adepts that he does and is not able to find as much success. So if he's set behind here, I'm a bit worried. Great W there from JeongHoon, though, to deny that engage from Kaiser.
Yeah, that Incinerate catching both members of Vitality, stunning them up, preventing any further flow despite that knock-up landing from Kaiser. While that's going on, Bo will at least be able to steal away that blue buff as Perkz once again trading here with Leader. He's trying to use those ice shards, but just being out DPS for now. The cooldown's too high, and that consistent burn from Sol's breath doing a lot of work. Still dead even on the CS though.
Really good transitional gank there. As actually might hold on to this Finn. Now should be able to walk away, but right side transitional gank from 113 there. Just walks through mid, gets the freeze then for Sol. So Perkz now feels the need to play on boss.
All right, Kobbe's got that flash and heal. JeongHoon goes forward, throws out the Q. Glacial path forward. First blood picked up by JeongHoon, and Vitality trying to get another back. Perkz is taken up by Kobbe, and now upsets down below. 200 hit points, 2 quick kills to Astralis.
And Kobbe has been so incredibly good in this bot side alongside JeongHoon. You can see there the amount of kills and assists he has at 14, second highest in the league, and now he's only adding more to his plate. It doesn't matter who this bot lane goes up against, they are putting you in your place every time.
Exceptionally well played. They use the combo well. They've done all of that poke earlier on, and I think that the Annie W call down from the previous skirmish, really influential. Upset and Kaiser were low. They felt they had that backup from Perkz, tried to engage it. Ultimately, it goes awry. One for each of the bot lane, and it's a 1,500 gold lead.
And it's a bit of a series of unfortunate events there for the rest of Vitality, right? Because 113 has that transitional gank mid, he gets the freeze on mid. Perkz then feels the need, he has to make a play because he can't actually push that wave in, and Bo can't help out because he's behind. Now 113 wants to punish the bot lane even further here.
All right, let's see what he can do here. Flash used as now all of a sudden 113 continues to chase, trying to use that blade of the Ruined King. Upset forced to flush for his life. And it does escape, but Summoner Spell blown. That means that the Varus Annie combo will have a target to jump on.
And this is where we get to see Vitality having that play in the bot side. And as you called out for JeongHoon, that Annie's been so crucial. Perkz now moving in, thinks he has the play. Heal comes through from Kobbe. JeongHoon then so much damage on this Annie in the early stages, and the immediate flash from Kobbe as well to make sure he can follow Perkz as he tries to get out.
I also love the thematic skin selection here. That Cosmic Varus to work alongside the Sol. More importantly for me, I think Kobbe went relatively untouched. Yes, he got a couple of spells his way, but because all the focus was on JeongHoon, he was able to just pelter Vitality down. So they used that advantage. They shoved the wave once again. Remember, Upset had to back. He's used the flash. And Astralis have got themselves that dragon already. So 113 will just send a little bit of a message over the wall. And it's a 1,000 gold lead. Look, the tower has already lost 2 plates. And with 113's presence, Bo is currently counter-jungling on that western quadrant. And another play potentially at risk of falling.
But Bo getting back into being average or on par with 113 is fine, as long as you're getting so much more control on bot. Here, though, is a problem.
All right, Glacial Path forward. Ring of Frost. Ice Shard into Ice Shard. There's no cease and desist. And Leader just goes, and they walk away.
It was a really nice idea from Perkz. Like, okay, I'm about to hit 6 off this wave. Bo, if you can come in, we can actually get a counter punch. But the problem was, you'd let Leader walk so far down onto that bottom side that you weren't sure where the rest of Astralis were and if they were going to come up. So now, 1,200 gold lead for Kobbe, thanks to 113 and these early plays, and also the fact that unfortunately Vitality kind of felt a bit pressured to try and make something happening, and it's just failed for them.
It really has. Vitality now still a 13 or 1,400 gold down. The only lane that is going their way is Photon. We've not really had a big glimpse in that top lane as Perkz will throw out the ultimate, works for one more Q, and Leader's burning 64 HP. His flash was used to escape with his life.
And it feels like if Vitality could just get Bo involved in a couple of these plays in mid, they could work out. The unsealed spellbook for the Ignite would have been so good if Bo even just had the ultimate, but now...
Here comes Finn! Charges up the Q. JeongHoon replies with one of his own. Flash over the wall, chase forward. Here comes Viego. It's Finn that gets the kill. While that's happening in the bottom lane, Upset and Kai'Sa find themselves a 2v1 onto Kobbe.
About time Vitality were able to get something back in the bot side, but phase rush on Finn, managing to chase down Bo in this top end, actually getting the kill back. So now Astralis, they are still getting a lot of presence on the map, even getting this Rift Herald as well, although Photon has something to say about it, but a lot of members of Astralis here, so Photon will be forced away.
Right, so important. That kill in the bottom lane going to Upset as well will balance out a little bit of that loss. Photon is under threat. 3 members of Astralis going forward. Finn able to pick up not only the kill into the Herald, I think they got the eye too. Here comes Bo. No ult available to him. Needlework has been used, and Finn's buying time thanks to that decimating smash. More importantly for me, though, the objectives and the control still favoring Astralis.
Astralis also having Kobbe being able to run down to bot side to pick up the wave is great, but that's the power of the Kai'Sa there. This is the reason she's actually thought of like counters for a lot of picks like the Ezreal, the long range engage coming through clutch, and nearly able to turn that around, but not quite enough.
I'm actually really glad that the observers highlighted just how much damage Kobbe was able to put out throughout the course of that. What was a 2v1? It is a good sign here for members of Astralis. And of course, you can see the total gold there. 2,800 for Kobbe, upsets 700 behind, and 113 still very, very active, looking for another opportunity, being backed up here by this Annie as JeongHoon's making his way forward. Flash available to him as well.
Really nice call here from Astralis. You know that the Bo, when he has his ultimate back up, wants to try and put his focus into mid lane, try and play around leader not having flash, so committing a lot of members here to this mid lane to make sure they can keep leader safe, and now Perkz could be the one in trouble.
Stepping into the darkness once more, drop the skies on them. Perkz will self-cast, that buys enough time for members of Vitality to back him up. But that's sort of the second time. Just a moment ago, Bo stepped into that northern river that wasn't warded, got jumped on. This time Perkz steps into the southern river, he gets jumps on. Perkz escapes with his life. Because of the grouping, it does allow this wave to be pushed all the way in to this fourth plate here for Astralis.
You still have the ultimate available just in a few seconds for 113, but probably won't even need to use it. Kobbe would love to be able to get in range for some of this gold, should be able to do so, knowing that Bo is about, though, by keeping him a little bit at bay. But still, first tower falling to Astralis. This is a fantastic early game for this squad.
2,500 gold is the lead. Kobbe in a very good position, and with that tower down, now they can start to move this Annie and Varus around, but Bo looking to engage, hops over the wall with the Q, throws out the ultimate, upset repositions with the killer instinct. The 1-3 is now the next target, but because of the split focus, it actually means Kaiser goes down. That's a double for Kobbe. Vitality did not pick one target at a time.
The Astralis comp we said for 113 wants to find early skirmishes, wants to find engages, and Astralis have set up this map every single time, so they're the ones that are in a better position to go for that. Kaiser tries to get onto JeongHoon, but not able to kill the Annie thanks to that big old shield that she has. And Astralis get the damage from 113 to turn that one around.
I mean, that is gigantic. 3, 1, and 2 out of the 6 kills that Astralis has secured. 5 of them have involved Kobbe.
This is where Kobbe, though, fantastic flash, denies Kaiser the follow-up, so Kobbe is just free hitting this whole time, stacks the lethal tempo, he's in a great spot, and then split decision-making here. They don't actually commit onto JeongHoon, who everything was blown onto initially. They then turn onto 113, and you can tell just how happy Astralis are with that.
JeongHoon, you deserve that little chest bump, my man. 1-0-5. His Annie was the target of Vi's ult, and he was able to turn that around. He's already got that mythic completed. 100% kill participation. And for Astralis, who've lost themselves 2 games this weekend already, they're in a very good position and in a very powerful position because they are coming up against a top-of-the-table team in Vitality.
And powerful doesn't even begin to describe it, especially with this dragon up now. Astralis trying to get control over mid, move down into the bot side where they've got a ton of vision already set up. And if you're trying to face check into 113, JeongHoon with his ultimate, even Kobbe having his ult up soon as well, that is going to be an absolute nightmare. So 113 starts up the dragon himself. They've already moved leader down to the spot side, and don't forget, you have fantastic scaling here. They
really, really do. We did see a very brief glimpse there of Photon. I kind of forgot he existed in this game. We've seen him just once or twice. I mean, look, 25 CS lead. You and I got into a healthy discussion yesterday. It's the flash engage on the Frozen Tomb here for Kobbe. Man, don't you wish he had cleanse there. The dragon is secured by Astralis at the cost of their bot laner's life, and all of a sudden though, Tippers has been dropped. Here comes 113. Not going to be able to find the broken blade, but the breath of light as well as the skies descended. Astralis go in, they go back out. 113 looking to break the hearts of Vitality. The shit comes up once more. He does it. Astralis, they get the fight after. 2 kills as well as the dragon.
Photon was just staying in that top side, wasn't able to join in, should be able to get the tower for himself, but it gives Astralis so much time here. Finn now finds Photon.
All right, what's a top laner? That's the question we asked just a minute ago. Finn thinks the top laner is somebody that helps out the rest of the squad. Photon right now trying to get that pressure, but it is not enough. I mean, 4,000 gold deficit. 3-2-3 on the Varus, 2-0-3 on a Viego, and he's got the ability to really just hop, skip, and jump across a plethora of champions that can just keep the ball rolling.
Especially with the massive amount of AoE damage that is coming in now. My biggest worry for Astralis was if they could find enough resources to get to the late game, and with them in this situation, it's impossible for them not to. You've already got your first item completed for leader, he's stacking up well. You're going to have 113 in a fantastic position where he can follow up on burst from JeongHoon, follow up AoE from Kobbe and leader, and make sure that he's able to follow through with all these ultimates. It's looking real good for Astralis right now, and he's a nice pick here for Vitality to start things off. This is where we're talking about how well Perkz can get onto Kobbe in the backline if he's separated. So bit of mispositioning there, but the rest of Astralis collapsed so damn quickly. I was a little bit worried. One of the big things about Annie's Tibbers is if you get the stun, Annie's Tibbers is enraged and then does more damage. So missing out on that stun there didn't mean that Tibbers wasn't doing as much damage in this fight, but just getting barely enough resets here. Just not enough damage from upset to finish off 113.
So
it was just, as you say, that battle of millimeters there.
I sincerely hope the crowd microphones were picked up there, because that's one of the best compliments you can give the observers. That, as the comment came in, I felt it in my bones. So did Vitality, and that's why they are down 6 kills, while they are down 4,000 gold. We do have a brief moment before, I think, another engage. Well, I'll hold that thought, actually, as 113 wants to start off this Herald. The rest of the members of Vitality, they're in such a precarious position. If they start the fight, compositionally it's hard. Perkz is nowhere near, so they're going to concede this Rift Herald. The reason I was hoping for just a moment or two of time, please look at the standings here, right? Astralis are at 2 and 3. But what I want to remind everybody is, the 2 wins that Astralis have is against G2 Esports and Koi, who just happen to be above them in the standings at 3 and 2. Assuming Astralis continue to play this game out well, their next 3 matches are against Fnatic, XL, and Heretics. And if I were a man who makes decisions that could, involve certain things, I would wager that Astralis have definitely got a favorable week 3 regular season when it looks towards not only making it to groups, but potentially having a higher pool seed.
It's not only just on the Astralis side, though. This is a bit of a worry for Vitality, because when you cast your minds back towards winter, right? Started off fantastic for Vitality. 4-win streak, they were top of the tables, everyone was like, oh my god, this is going to be incredible. And just as we started to teeter into the last week, we got a loss here, a loss there, and eventually they finish on a 4-loss streak. And now Vitality are in a position where, well, they had a loss yesterday to G2, they now find themselves just shy of 4,000 gold behind Astralis, and Astralis don't want to let up.
No, they really don't. It's a very difficult situation. The thing is, I have no cooking clue what is happening this spring, because it is impossible to predict. And especially just yesterday and today, Dagda, we've had some of the most surprising and shocking games. Right now, Astralis in a position to completely dominate. A minute to go for the next Dragon. They're not going to wait for it, though, because the unstoppable Onslaught goes forward. Gigantic blast cone to safety, thanks to the Chemtech Drake Rift. That actually gets out both Bo and Perkz. Gets away the ultimate, and now it's Vitality. They fancy themselves going forward. Finn starts the teleport into the Rivel, the mid lane, as it were. Leader's already taken out Kaiser. Vitality are split. Vitality are running for their lives, and Leader's just trying to find the hose pipe of damage onto Vitality. It's a 2-for-1 in that middle lane. Perkz will be forced to use that tomb himself. Glacial Path over the wall. Needs to use the blast cone out, and I think he will escape with his life. 2-for-1 in favor of Astralis.
Yeah, the Chemtech Rift helping out a little bit there with Perkz escape, but now it's a 20 seconds until the Dragon, and even though they don't have 113 for the beginning, Astralis are just so damn strong right now. It's nigh and impossible for you to actually control them. Even having Tibbers still available for this next fight, but this was a stretch. 113 already has the ultimate once well, but look at Leader's damage here. Gets the ultimate, everyone is standing on that E in the middle of it, and then he just hops over the wall, getting all this ray of sunshine off onto Vitality, and it's nothing but smalls for Astralis in that fight.
I mean, completely untouched. Positioning was great. I think the fact as well that Photon was insta-stunned so early on, didn't manage to get that needlework. Vitality, they're trying to find opportunities. They have to create advantages in a numbers positive scenario, because they are very, very far behind. The third Dragon here will be secured, uncontested, as Vitality once again use that blowscone to run away to safety. Itemization is starting to lean in the way of Astralis, and with 4 minutes 50 seconds until Sol on the Dragon is up, that could be one of the last stands for Vitality.
This is, again, just heartbreaking for Vitality. It feels like every time we get towards the end of the split, we start to see this kind of breakdown between their mid-jungle and how they want to try and play together. We talked about how Bo and Perkz could have tried to play heavily for that shutdown leader in the early stages. Make sure they're able to play on bot side. Instead, though, it's Astralis who are getting control of our bot lane early. Nothing happening between Bo and Perkz. And now Leader is just too big to handle. He hasn't even hit his final form, and he's already taking over.
And of course, I've got to scratch my head just a little bit around this bottom lane. Gets out in a second as Photon will get taken out. I mean, when Astralis beat G2, the exciting eye test was Leader's Irelia. Obviously was enabled by the rest of the squad, but he really took over the game. This time against Vitality, the other sort of expected top 2, top 3 seed here in Europe, it started in the bottom lane. Upset and Kai'Sa were beaten up a little by Kobbe and JeongHoon. That early gank from 113 then just kind of cemented, or was the roam from Perkz that then gave the advantage to Astralis, and they've steamrolled from there. 3-2 2-0-9 for Kobbe and JeongHoon respectively. What I like is, for Astralis, a team that has only secured 2 wins so far, against 2 of the toughest opponents, different players, different members have stepped up to try and carry for them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has been, in those losses, just teams reading this one style that they were playing and trying to counteract it, right? In this one, we still have a little bit of that go forward button. They still want to go for team fights. It's still somewhat similar, but I definitely think Vitality don't have that same level of comfort to just fall back on, oh, well, we've got ease of execution in kiting back, buying space, and when you're actually going up against Astralis here, I mean, Leader doing so much work in this Aurelion Sol right now, Kobbe in a great spot, you've got good engage from Finn once more, and now Astralis turn over towards the Baron. Photon, you're going to need to TP.
Get your barbecues out, it's Astralis, that means it's a burger flip. They're going to peel away from the Baron though, look for the team fight. Teleports are channeled from Photon and Perkz, but the focus is going to be onto JeongHoon. He's taken out and Photon's escaped with his life. Wait, Bo sent Bo over the wall. He was able to charge up that Vault Breaker though and escape, but for a brief moment, Vitality sold him out. He's waiting for that one, for the ultimate. Does he fancy the engage? Vitality are running for their lives.
Wait for Finn. 3 seconds on that ultimate. He was hoping he'd be able to find that engage, but not quite able to do so. Now, though, Astralis trying to see if they can fight back in the mid lane and turn immediately over towards the Baron, as they know Vitality have to reset.
I mean, remember, Viego, Sol, Varus with the Rage Blade, they can do a lot of damage quickly onto the Baron, but they unfortunately were split up on the potential fight. Waiting inside the bush. They're going to go back. Like I said, get those barbecues ready. The weather doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how cold it is, whether there's sun, rain, or not. Astralis inside the pit. Dagda, they're going once again.
Bo can get over the wall, though, has the ultimate to try and get in here. Astralis don't really have the tools to try and keep Bo out of the pit, so they will just back away. A lot of wasted time here for Astralis, and it ends up only resulting in JeongHoon's death. We'll see it here. JeongHoon gets completely separated. Thinks that Finn is going to be coming with them, but Finn has to walk the entire way around to try and separate Vitality, which leaves JeongHoon completely on his own. Photon barely able to escape away thanks to the heating that comes through from the ult and also just having that shroud to keep himself safe. And then Bo, not too pleased with that one, but luckily able to escape as well.
Despite the duo of Photon looking so good, and sometimes that was one momentary nerve-wracking situation there for Bo. He does manage to escape with his life. The thing is, I kind of feel like that was a forced decision. I'm not sure if Astralis needed to do that with the lead that they have. I think they had teleports available as well, so they could have played the side lanes. Like, if you were to critique that play, do you like the Baron baits? Or do you think it's a brash decision from a young squad?
I think it's a good idea, because you know the Photon is just beating out Finn in these side lanes at the moment, so getting TP off of him, pretty crucial, especially for Dragon in the next few seconds, because you want to make sure that you're able to not worry about Photon in the side lane and just keep control over that. The problem now, though, is you've already kind of blown JeongHoon ends up being the price you have to pay for it, but now when you're coming into this, okay, you don't have flashes on Perkz, Bo, you don't have a Photon with his Ghost. For 30 seconds, you've got everything available on Astralis, and they can just go all in on this next fight.
I really, really like the call out. The fact that Photon is kind of the only winning member here for Vitality. He's lost his TP, he's lost his presence. That 4,000 gold lead is still there, and members of Astralis grouping up. The onslaught is unstoppable for now. Decimating smash comes up. The Hallowed Mist is buying some time, but Bo is dropped. It's 10 seconds for the Dragon Soul, and Baron's available too.
That went from Bo to Do real quick. Now you've got Astralis being able to move whatever directions they want to. Baron is there and available. They're just going to be able to burst this down. Sol does so much damage to this thing.
Burning this one completely. Perkz trying to put some pressure on that top lane. Teleport just becoming available. He will need to recall or get away for now. starts to actually TP to the bottom lane. Vitality may be able to pick up the first dragon. This will at least stall the Sol, and we'll be able to try put at least some gold in their back pockets with this bounty, both in the dragon and the bottom tower. So small wins here for Vitality. Okay, let's talk scaling. We're 2 items in, moving towards 3. The composition here from Vitality did not accelerate with the Vi Lissandra, which is what we wanted anticipated from the early game. How do you think they match up now in the situation of the 5v5 with the current state of golden items?
Yeah, leader is just too big at the moment. I think the best way you can try and play this as Vitality is Bo throws everything onto leader, see if he can get some follow-up from upset and then execute him. And then Photon's job in these fights is to try and match Kobbe. If you can play around your Shroud, it's a much shorter time pool, but you might be able to get the damage off enough with your ultimate that you're able to keep Kobbe out of the fight. And then with leader gone and Kobbe out of the picture, maybe you have something, but it's very, very tough to do. It relies a huge amount on Bo, Perkz, and upset, probably even Kaiser as well, to be perfectly honest, all being in tandem, jumping onto leader as one, and bursting out this ASL before he gets going.
And then, of course, keep in mind that Viego, Varus can also look to clean up. The Mikhail's Blessing has been completed for JeongHoon. Flash is available for Kobbe. And I want to just remind everyone as well, no cleanse there for Kobbe himself. He does have the stopwatch, which could become crucial. And it will also highlight as well that at, 24 minutes in, the Elixir of Iron is sitting in 113's inventory too. So it feels to me like Astralis, they want to use this Baron buff and accelerate the game even further. 4-man stack here in the bottom lane, trying to take out the inhibitor turret. Here comes Bo, level 11. Ult available to him. Photon is going to finish that recall. Finn has his teleport. The tower has fallen. Kaiser's looking for the flank. This is going to be risky if Vitality pull the trigger.
If they can find this engage before Finn gets here, it's huge. Claw just used by Perkz means there's not really that follow-up though. So now that fight that they were looking for is kind of out the window. You needed to use that Claw and the Flash to try and close the distance, but maybe Vitality's still looking. I don't think they can.
Listen, it's still a minute on this Baron buff, and Astralis have done exceptional work with it. They got control of the bottom lane. That Elixir was drank there by 113 in anticipation of a potential fight. Supers as well, with 3 minutes until the next dragon. Sjokz can just set up for that one, play for some vision. I do want to see how hastily they play though, as Perkz will now at least be matched by leader. Level 16 to level 14, a 2,000 gold difference, a 35 CS difference, and a complete item in leader's back pocket extra.
This TP here, though, is going to give Astralis the opportunity to use the last remaining bit of this Baron buff to actually take the tier 2 if they're quick. Vitality trying to desperately clear it this way. The push is coming through. There's just a handful of seconds left before that runs out.
Finn is in the middle lane still, Dagda. No teleport available. He used that into the bottom lane. Photon has his up, and the tier 2 will be conceded. No challenge made. The last seconds ticking away. Baron is now gone. And keep in mind that item, level, stat disparity between the respective mid laners. Finn has ushered the way forward. 4 versus 4 in the top lane. 4 versus 3 corrections. Photon still hasn't teleported. Photon's on the bottom lane. He's looking to pick up that bounty. The skies have descended and the AoE is huge. The turret is exposed. 113 now running for his life. He flashes away to safety, but the base is opened up. Another inhibitor is exposed. Yes, Photon got an inner turret and a bounty, but now they're dealing with 2 super minions in 2 waves.
Great call from Finn. Actually cancels the recall for exactly this moment. They knew that Vitality were trying to find the answer after.
There's 2 teleports though. Perkz is going all the way from that tower. Kaiser goes forward. Leader's been caught out. He's forced to flash to safety. The follow-up is there from Astralis, but Leader might just about be taken down. Not takes just yet. 1, 2 members for Photon. Another for upset. How have Vitality created the opportunity? They've got the shutdowns. They've got the kills. They've taken out the carries, and they've aced Astralis.
4 kills for Photon off the back of that. And honestly, they've already done a ton of damage to this base, so this potentially could be inhibitor for them, but brilliant fight.
Dagda, you told me top laners don't matter. Photon sends his regards.
I said it was about getting on leader, and that's exactly what happens in this fight. Photon with that TP, using the Shroud, Perkz getting into position. Everyone jumps onto leader, and look at Kobbe. He can't get into these fights. Has that wall in his way, can't do particularly much, and as soon as leader's dealt with, then it becomes a case of we can breeze through these fights. Kobbe doesn't have the tools he needs against the composition that can quickly dive onto him like this to keep the distance away from them.
I had 6,000 damage there. I had completely given up on Vitality this game. 2 waves of supers. The Sol was just about to spawn. And just like that, they find the double flank, but they committed everything for it. No TPs, they're in a little bit of trouble. It is 10 seconds until the Sol, and Vitality still are in a precarious position.
But Photon now has his hat on, and that could be so crucial here. Having that Rabadon's death cap to actually find these flank plays, and Vitality have set up the vision. Astralis need to try and fall back into this topside jungle.
No flash for Kobbe, no flash for Leader. Kaiser's looking to get down with the quickness, and Perkz is just going to get breathed on. Finn steps forward. Ooh, Glacial Path not followed this time round. Super minions making their way forward. Keep your eyes on that minimap, everybody. Supers are about to make their way to the steps. Once they get into the base, that is when Astralis ideally want to start to make that play for the Dragon. Finn actually threw out the Unstoppable Onslaught, not going to be used. The engage from Upset. The killer instinct for the Bo's already down. He tried the cease and desist. Perkz is trying to get in range. Manages to throw out the Ring of Frost, but he's taken out. Vitality mate, look for the sucker punch, but they may be the suckers in the end. Upset's running for his life, and Photon's the last man standing in a 1 versus 4. He's taken down. Astralis have done it.
Finn played bodyguard in that fight, keeping Photon at bay, making sure he couldn't get into the club that Astralis had formed. And now, with the minions on the top side, Astralis will have taken down our top 2 teams in the LEC.
G2 first, Vitality second, and with the Nexus being focused, Astralis will set themselves up with a 3-3 scoreline. Looking ahead to Fnatic, Excellent Heretics, looking ahead to groups. That's what they want. Astralis take down Vitality. Dagda, I will say though, those last 2 fights, the teleports engages, the soul of these teams is just go in.
Yeah.
I don't know if Vitality needed to pick that fight in the middle and at that second. They had supers pouring in. I could feel the intensity, and it was Vitality that pulled the trigger.
I definitely think you had to there. Soul available for Astralis would have been way too difficult then to burst out Leader with this comp that was built around burst. The extra resistances you get when you're low would have been nightmare for them, and as well as you say, the super minions pushing the top side. They were on a timer, they had to go, and it felt like half them went, the others weren't quite ready, and that's where that disconnect came from.
The first Viego of spring, as well as that Varus Annie combination for Kobbe and JeongHoon. I think Kobbe and JeongHoon for me stole the show in the early game. Leader delivered the punches in the mid to late game, and Astralis taking down Vitality. They go 1-2 on the weekend. And I said during the game, I don't know how to interpret the results that we're seeing, but it does make the 3rd and final week of regular season extra spicy.
Especially since it's still, regardless of what end of the table you're at all to play for, you could still end up taking a top 2 spot, making yourself into a great spot coming in towards that playoffs position. Or now you could even see who the hell is going to be coming in towards that bottom of the table. So honestly, Vitality now, having dropped 2 games over the course of this week, has made things incredibly interesting.
If you are a Fnatic or Heretics fan, 1-4, 2-4, let's be fair as well, Excellent Madlines also at 2-4. Difficult situation to be in. The fact that Sjokz picked that one up, it's only 1 or 2 games separating this team. There's only 3 or 4 games remaining for all of our squads, so it's going to come down to the wire once again. For this game, though, we want to celebrate Astralis a little bit more. Our Player of the Game nominees at LEC on Twitter, 113, Leader, and Kobbe. That is a impossible task for me because I think every single one of them contributed in different ways.
Yeah, I think the fact that you end up with Kobbe winning out in the early stages, 113 playing so well around that bot lane, win then to go for these invades, Leader having this massive Aurelion Sol mid-game, it's insane to try and pick these people up.
Dagda, it's time to go home and get some rest for the 2 of us. For now, we're going to carry on with the post-match though as Sjokz and Treatz take it away.
Thank you so much. Leader is coming as well. I see he's already there, so he's joining in just a second. What a game. I was a little bit afraid by the end, Treatz, but in the end they won.
Yeah, I mean, it was the Astralis mid-late game heart attack.
Yeah.
But at least they got through it now, right? I think, yeah, this was...
Greetings.
Hello,
Greetings.
welcome.
We were just talking about how you almost threw the game.
Yeah, happens sometimes.
Happens. I wonder if is the replay ready already, production, of the almost... like the quadra kill by Photon? I don't know if it is. We'll take a look. But what happened in that, well, not the last fight, but the fight before that?
I think we realized the teleport's a bit late, right? Because one TP'd in front and the other one was TPing far. I didn't see the far TP. So that was really smart of them, but maybe I'm the one trolling here, passing that choke, I think. but I had to react to Rakan flash. But I thought we could honestly turn on the Gwen, but all in all, just my bad, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't
That's
know the
what Treatz said
Lissandra.
too.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't know
I thought
the
it was only Gwen,
Lissandra.
yeah.
Yeah, the Lissandra angle was really good there, so you were just trying to kite towards Kobbe. Obviously, you guys got split apart after by the good position of Lissandra, and then we did almost have a heart attack. And
I almost had a heart attack as well.
Yeah, probably. Let's take a look at some other moments from the game, starting with the early bot lane kills. Yeah, talk to me about your bot lane in this game, because things were going well.
I don't know. I had Keria and Gumayushi on bot. I think it was really insane. This Lissandra roam, I actually did not expect it because his lane state was really, really bad. So this roam is actually pretty good from him.
Yeah.
But it looked like bot state was not so great as well. So this was kind of a flip play, really, really desperate because they were getting choked out in bot lane and they were getting choked out in mid lane.
Yeah, I felt like they were kind of over-forcing on bot after this play. It felt like they were really desperate and they were kind of sending the engages on Annie, which I thought was a bit weird. Like, I don't think it matters if Annie dies in this comp. And they kind of just lost like 3 plays on bot in a row, and then you were scaling on Aurelion, and it looked kind of simple from there on out.
I think their comp is not really easy to play. They have to kind of force early game if they're playing Lissandra with Kai'Sa, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard because we outscale really, really hard, I would say. And our comp is a lot easier to play compared to theirs as well because they have to always find flanks and we can just fight front to back. But obviously, if we lose flashes, then it's hard for us to play after. But I think we always got something out of each time they engaged, and in the end, we got a sizable lead that we could end the game.
Yeah, it was super impressive.
Yeah, like when both comps are ahead, I feel like it's kind of easy to take over.
For sure.
And I guess you guys won three fights in a row and kind of carried it on from there. So that was a good job by you guys.
Also, great performance on Aurelion Sol, which definitely took a lot of people off guard. I want to say, I also think it's interesting because yesterday it was the match of the week and it was Vitality versus G2. And Perkz played the Aurelion Sol, but they didn't win. Does that have anything to do with the pick?
I think
am I looking for drama here?
I mean, I think maybe his lane matchup is not so easy, and I think he went for a build where his lane phase will not be easy as well. If he goes Roa, he can maybe survive the laning phase much more, because Catalyst or whatever that item is called is really, really strong in lane. But obviously he was in a tough matchup. I don't know what bot matchup they had, but if they had the losing bot lane matchup as well, then mid is really, really hard to play. So I think their draft was probably not so great, and G2 played good. Honestly, I don't remember. I was so mad from the loss yesterday that I didn't properly watch the game.
Let's talk about that then. Not a good weekend from Astralis so far after a great start last week, 2-1. So what went wrong?
I think we were actually trying to do too many things. Like, obviously, first week, like it's always stage meta will always be different to scrim meta. That's the thing, and it seems like everyone has realized Xayah is really, really broken. And then we drafted a comp where it was hard to play. One mistake and the game is over, just like I would say Vitality played against, what was it? Mad Lions, right? So we're playing a one mistake comp and we made a big mistake at Drake and they snowballed from it. They played really, really good after that with tempo and everything. And then the game against BDS, we had it in full control, but honestly, we were playing something that we didn't practice because Annie was banned the whole week in scrims. I didn't get a single game of it as well, and I was honestly a little bit caught off guard that I was going to play Annie. So honestly, that game is my bad, I think. Just I take full responsibility for that one.
You have to like build up the stun and then keep it forward.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thank you. I learned.
Okay. That's no problem. This is super sweet photo, by the way. Look, I mean, this is also cool, but look at, JeongHoon.
Yeah.
Probably was stressful. I don't know if this is from today, actually. It's probably not. Overall, though, it's Fun Day Monday, and it hasn't been that fun. Also, this picture isn't fun, but it's really beautiful. So basically, we were talking, and you were talking about like Reddit narratives and stuff, and how it's annoying because maybe they're not like not representing you the way they should. So I thought you could use this and just like, this is like the misconceptions about you. Do you know what I mean? And you can just
smash it however you want.
You just smack it.
I have to?
No, you don't have to. I thought if you wanted to.
Can someone else do it for me? So
No. This is your misconception.
You don't want to defend me?
Yeah, you don't want to defend them,
You don't
Treatz?
want to defend me?
I want to
You're
defend
instigating?
Okay, I mean, okay.
Am I
You're the
instigating?
instigator.
You're just instigator.
Okay.
Instigator.
Here you go.
Okay. All right.
Let's do it.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you.
That's all of that. But now you have to keep winning, of course. Otherwise, this has been for nothing.
Hopefully.
Okay, cool. Anyways, be back after the break or else, but we will be right back. It is G2 versus BDS. Bye.
So Perkz
Perkz now feels the need to play on boss.
All right, Kobbe's got that flash and heal. JeongHoon goes forward, throws out the Q. Glacial path forward. First blood picked up by JeongHoon, and Vitality trying to get another back. Perkz is taken up by Kobbe, and now upsets down below. 200 hit points. Not going to be able to find the broken blade, but the breath of light as well as the skies descended. Astralis go in, they go back out. 113 looking to break the hearts of Vitality. The shoot comes up once more. He does it.
Kai'Sa first. Yeah, Q1. I can kill. Go mid then. Let's go! Push.
Astralis will set themselves up with a 3-3 scoreline. Astralis take down Vitality. You're gonna make it! You're gonna make it, dude! Come on! Stay with, work with me here, work with me! We're nearly there! Come on, let's go!
Oh, Trev. Help.
Mark, you've done too much, dude. What can I get you?
Give me that.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Are you guys being weird again?